I got to playing around with the backgrounds a little too much there, Skip, and lost track of
Yeah.
time.
No, it's all good, man. Gotta have the tools and the toys to play around with every once in a while.
But you can see, like, in the background now, I have our old underwater scene from what,
Oh yes, yes.
2018. I was like, oh, I'm gonna slap that up as our background, so it looks a little cooler. Maybe somebody scrolling through LinkedIn goes, oh, hey, I need to watch that.
Oh,
So,
business is an ocean. We are navigators.
yep, that was the original catchphrase of our company.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a good one. I still like it. Every once in a while,
I just
somebody
laugh
asks,
because Lincoln, Nebraska, it's got to be the furthest away from any ocean. Yes, I know you have plenty of water, but I mean, oceans are a long way from Nebraska.
oceans. We are the only double landlocked state, I believe. Something like that. So it means that we have to go through 2 states to get to an ocean. There is no, oh, let's just go across to Oklahoma. No. Like, I have to go across Kansas, then Oklahoma, then Texas.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Then Texas.
And that's a long drive, people.
That is.
It's 18 hours, I believe. I think I measured one time. 18 hours to the nearest coastline for me. If I just drove straight.
That's too much. That's too much. I'm 90 minutes and I'm really enjoying that. Although I don't.
Yeah. But, I know NerdioCon's going on right now. And I'm like, for me, that's like 3 flights. For Skip, it's like 20 minutes. He hops on a plane down the street and he's there.
Yeah. And it's like, we're all freezing up here and they're relaxing out on the beach down there having a good time.
Oh yeah. So anyways, today, we kind of had a free week because I forgot to schedule an event. And I'm like, crap, what is this? And last year at this time, we did a big software rollout. And so I had blocked out this week. So when I went into this year, I forgot to remove that software rollout. So this week I wanted to talk about something kind of important. And there's a trick to perceived value that has to be mapped to accountability. And the reason we bring this up is the fact that we hear a lot of MSPs saying, how do I increase my perceived value? How do I get my customer to see that we're working really hard? And so a lot of MSPs try to hold themselves accountable, say, look at all the tickets we close. We close tickets in an average of, X amount of hours or days, and we got you a turnaround time of this. Now, yes, that is an important metric, but it's a small one. Some of your clients really care about that metric. Some of them care about other things. So measuring accountability based on performance goals that matter to the business it's a long way of saying a performance-based organization. So in your MSP, you have goals and your client has goals. As a service provider, you have to be aware of both and you have to be held accountable to both. And the tricky part about you guys is that it doesn't matter what industry you're in, but that accountability comes down to your client may care about different things than you do, and you have to be cognizant of that. So we call that running the called play.
Yeah.
Your client may say the number one thing for us this year is to reduce operational expenditure.
Okay.
That may not be yours because you want to increase profits and you make profits off operations.
Yeah.
But so your client's gonna look at it as, oh, sure, you closed tickets in a record amount of time, but did you save us any money?
Yeah. And that's a quote, that operational expense. So, cost cutting is always a popular topic in business, finances. And if your client is telling you they want to cut costs, don't just assume that it has to be your cost. All right. Because they could spend a little bit more with you if you could help them implement something that reduced costs somewhere else. So, and the great thing about technology is many times it's a multiplier. So, dropping your, invoice by $100 a month or $1,000 a year is pretty small. But if they spend more with you by even $100 a month or $1,000 a year, that could easily translate into, significantly more savings with your clients. So those are great opportunities that you set down with your clients and you work through. And the really cool part about that is it's not all up to you to
Yeah.
measure, convince, to persuade your clients that this metric is good and that you're on track. If you're developing those with your clients, they're going to understand the value of it. They're going to know when it's on target or when it's not. And here's the really cool part about it. If you're developing these targets with your clients, they have ownership in it. So if it's off target, it's not all on you. They have a shared responsibility. So they can't sit down at the table and go, oh, you told me this and it just, messed up and you don't know what you're talking about. No, they're going to have to come and say, hey, we worked on this and it looks like we were wrong, right? They're going to have to work with you to figure out the right way to evaluate or, grade whatever it is they're going to do. So it's a little daunting sometimes because it's things outside your expertise area. But as you bring your clients in with this, you get to collaboratively work on it, and it's not going to all be on you. And I think for me, I know sometimes I handle a lot of pressure, I think, well enough. But sometimes when it just all zeroes in on you, it's just the sun and the magnifying glass, right? Things start to boil. And this will one of the things that can help diffuse that.
Yeah. And I mentioned this before on our podcast. I've mentioned community updates. Envision your business like your house. You have the things that you want to get done. Your spouse has things that they want to get done, and they don't always align. And that's fine. And so it's expected that I'm going to mow the lawn. Well, now I've got a kid who loves to mow the lawn, so he's out there mowing it, but I love mowing the lawn. It's expected that I'm going to do some things that I just enjoy doing around the house. Yard work is something I love doing. And so my wife doesn't like it as much. And so it's great, but she's really great at getting the bills paid. And so we have these expectations, and that's just like you as an MSP. There are things you're expected to do. You're expected to keep the PCs running. You're expected to keep the lights on. But then there's the things that your client cares about. So in your house, like I like to have my kitchen counters clean. I've got 4 kids. They're constantly like throwing food on the counter, smearing jelly across places, and it's just a mess. And I go up there and I scrub off the counter because it matters to me.
Yep.
You could clean the entire house, but if that counter is dirty, it just drives me crazy. And so I take it upon myself to clean that. What is that countertop moment for your client? You may be working your butt off, keeping the lawn mowed, keeping the house clean. But if you're missing that one thing that really matters, your client doesn't see your value as high. So that you're holding yourself accountable to the wrong thing. Whereas, somebody came in and scrubbed off that countertop and made it nice and clean. So when I walk in the door, the first thing I see is this counter's all clean. I'm like, oh man, that's great. There could be a mud stain across the entire living room. Wouldn't bother me that much. Be like, oh, probably need to clean that. Dogs tracking and stuff everywhere. But the counter was clean, right? So everything else is forgivable. With your clients, they have the same thing. Like they may only care, or their biggest thing that they want to make sure is that somebody responds to an email within like 20 minutes of being sent.
Yeah.
Or it may be that they want to have, like, we used to make the joke that no one cared if they got a new computer. They cared if they got a new monitor or a keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would make sure that everybody got a new monitor and keyboard every like 3 years or so.
Yeah. Well, and there's a great example that you've probably run into, and it's very technical. We had one many years ago, and we had a data migration. It was email migration, right? And those are always really fun. And it should have gone well. We kicked it off Friday. Mail's going to move over the weekend, different things, send out notices, downtime, all this kind of good stuff. Well, of course, it goes sideways. Yep. Mailboxes aren't showing up. We aren't getting attachments. Calendar events are nowhere to be found. And it goes on. And we had an engineer working on it. They really quickly realized that it was going bad. They called in the senior engineer. He shows up, and it is just it's magic what he's doing. I mean, he's got scripts running. He's pulling tools out of his back pocket that nobody's ever seen before. He does all this amazing stuff, and different parts of the team is communicating, and internally, we're watching this over the weekend through messaging or emails, and people are going, "Oh, wow, that's cool." I mean, it's just impressive. Monday morning, what do we tell the clients? Your mail's ready. you know, uh, those fantastic things were so important to us, but to their client, we knew all they wanted was their mail. They might ask, "How did it go?" And we can say, "We had challenges," but at the end of the day, they're asking us how it went just as a courtesy. They're not really listening for the answer. They just want their mail to be there. And so you've got to find what's important to your clients.
I think it's funny that I'm trying to respond to Mike Giovanni in the thread right here, and it won't let me hit enter. It's giving me a character return instead. So sorry, Mike. Mike's got a great question out there, and because StreamYard hates LinkedIn, I can't repost it here, but I asked an open question on LinkedIn, like, how do you hold yourself accountable to your clients? And Mike said, communicate with them, respond to their concerns quickly and honestly.
Yep.
And I think that's great, but how? How do you communicate with them? Like, what is it that they're responding to? So if I left a note for like my kids on the counter, that's one way we communicate in our house, like notes on the counter. And some of my kids are better at writing out apologies than they are actually like verbalizing them. And that's great. What is it your client accepts as good communication? Do they want a phone call? Do they want a text message? Do they want an email? How far do you go in this? And that's all about that accountability. What is the expectation, and are you doing it?
Yeah.
So another trick to accountability and communication style is, are you communicating from the top level at your MSP down what your goals are? So are you telling your employees, hey, this year we're going to land 5 new customers every quarter? Are you communicating down there saying, hey, we are going to streamline deployment of PCs this year? And then let them say, here's how we're going to do that. And that way your employee feels valuable. They feel like they're contributing to the overall goal of the program. And when you do that, they feel valuable and you feel heard. Now think about that. What if your employees were accomplishing your goals for you every week?
Mm-hmm.
It makes them feel valued. Their perceived value goes up because they feel heard. And so it's like when I say I like the counters in my house to be clean, and one of my kids goes through and scrubs the counters. They remove everything off of it and they scrub the counters and they do a really good job. Dad, look what I did. And I said, wow, that looks great. And that makes me feel valued and heard.
Mm-hmm.
Your client has these things. You have these things. If you want to increase your perceived value, you have to change what you're doing onto what your client perceives as successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so that may be that you have to bring them cookies once a month. That's the big thing. They want the vendor that gives the best cookies.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? If that's going to get you that $10,000 a month contract, bring them the best cookies you possibly can every week. Even though you're an MSP, bring them the cookies.
Yeah.
If their biggest value thing is they want the cutting edge phones deployed to their entire organization, okay, they got 10 people, that's $1,000 a phone, that's $10,000 a year. The contract is 20,000, do the math in your head.
Do the math. Yeah.
And put them on one of those Apple plans that they automatically get upgraded every year. Solve the problem that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And hold your staff accountable to that. Like, look, guys, this is a great client. The thing they care about most is when we walk in that office that we check in with that front desk.
Yep.
That we walk in and we clean off the keyboards and the monitors. They care about that. They care about the internet never going down. I mean, that's true, but that's kind of like me mowing the lawn. It's just expected that I'm going to mow the lawn.
Uh-huh.
That should be done. I enjoy doing it. It's part of my job. But going that extra mile, like, hey, I folded all your clothes today, wasn't expected to me. It was valued.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, the floor's cleaned up. Hey, these things are happening, and the client sees them because they're things they care about. And people everywhere have their nuances. You just have to discover what those are so you can increase your value to them. And it might be something dumb and small.
Yep.
So if you're struggling with, my clients don't appreciate me, maybe it's because you don't understand what your clients want. And it
That's
could
it.
be that they want something dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just need to know. And, everything that Adam talked about there, I mean, as I'm listening to that, I'm saying, wow, that could be, that could be different for every single one of my customers. And how do I manage that chaos? Right? Yes, it is going to be very different for many of your customers. And it's not really, you're approaching it the wrong way with that manage concept that you've got to wrangle it down. No, you just have to be aware of it. And you be aware of it by asking your clients, what is most important to you? What are the top things that you need? You obviously, want to frame it somewhat in the scope of technology, but not exclusively. All right. You don't want to say, hey, just tell me what are the blinky light things that you have to have going on. No, understand what's really important to their business overall, because while technology has, a foothold in some things more than others, you can at least support that. Right.
Yeah.
You can make sure that there's something else that doesn't go down, because of the technology there. But just listen to your clients and then find a spot to document that, to make sure it's top level. We've got places in our platform, but again, back to our Big Chief tablet, process. If that's it, write it on the top line. You use both the solid and the dotted lines, right?
Yep.
Few of you will get that. And make sure it's in big letters there, so this is what's important to this client, and then just follow through. Every time you connect with them, you're just referencing information that you documented. You don't have to create all this. You don't have to understand, deep dive, analyze. Just listen to your clients.
Yeah. And in the corporate world is where I saw this the most. I didn't see it as much on the MSP side, because it's not as you're not in the office every day with your clients usually. So, but in the corporate world, I'd finish like a $300,000 project. I mean, something just absolutely massive, like a mid-tier firewall project that was going to secure everybody's networks as well as keep the chatter down. No one felt that. No one talked about that. We would sit up in our QBRs and go, "Hey, we finished the mid-tier project. We decreased the vulnerability scope by X, and we did all this." No one really cared. It was hard.
Yeah.
And then we would say, "Hey, we switched to a password vault, and it's automatically available to everybody." And all of a sudden, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, that's so great!" It took me like 5 minutes on a group policy to push that out. Like it took me nothing, but it improved them because they had like 80 passwords they were managing, and now they only had to manage one, and it made things so much easier. Or I show up with donuts because I wanted to do a security review of a department. I remember the donuts. They don't remember all the things I did. That perceived value, it all comes down to, what does the client want? What does the department want? Not about how much money you're spending. Has nothing to do with the amount of effort you put in. It all comes down to, what do they perceive as valuable to them? And so, like, if you read like the 5 love languages, for instance, very great book on how to increase the perception of you, how to make your employees feel more valued. Some want you just to tell them, "Hey, you did a great job on that. Good job." Some of them want a Starbucks gift card. Some of them want you to show up and help them on a project. You got to read the person across from you and determine what do they find valuable, so that they want to continue to work with you. I really like working with Alice because she listens to me.
Mm-hmm.
I really like working with somebody because they hold me accountable, and I feel like I get more done when they're involved.
Yep.
That is perceived value, but it changes. And so write that down on your Big Chief notebook, like Skip said. Put it at the top of the page. Mm-hmm. That's why on our software, you see business goal, 1 goal per company. Mm-hmm. Put it at the top of the page, and it gets seen no matter what tab you're in. You see grow by 20% this year. Increase number of students by 50. add this into our bank, reduce risk score, whatever it is, put it at the top so everybody, all your technicians, all your engineers, account managers, everybody is working on helping this client with their goal. And then when
Mhm.
they're talking to them, say, hey, look, if you do this, it's going to help you get to that 20% increase in sales goal. And here's how.
Yep.
Now the customer's listening to you. Now they feel heard. Whether or not you agree, you think they need to be doing more vulnerability scannings, beside the point.
Right.
Did you solve a problem they care about? I know it sounds like a broken record this time around, but that is how you do accountability.
And it moves you down the path in being able to get bigger and maybe more complicated items done. So as part of some security initiatives, we were part of a group. I forget what it was, but it was finance focused, and it got us in the door, sort of, with this organization. And it was basically a bank sort of organization, credit unions, all this stuff. And they went around the country and hosted all these events. And I got to digging and found out that, as our, being part of this association or whatever, got us access to these, right? And I noticed one was in my city. So I go, and I mean, it was low time commitment. It was an evening event at a local country club. I show up, and there's, free food. I'm like, okay, it's entirely banking focused, right? And I listened to a few things. It cost me a couple of hours of time. I got my meal paid for. Great. I leave. A week or two later, I'm sitting down in a regularly, scheduled technical conference with one of our banks. And while we're having everybody come in, I bring up the topic that was, big on everybody's mind during that banking event. I'm like, how do you feel about this? All right. It was really small, but I remember the president of the bank was in the room, small bank. And so meeting with the president, and he was like, wow, you're interested in my business. And he began to, tell me why that mattered, how that affected their bank. And that was the beginning of a relationship where he understood I wanted to know about his business and I wanted to help his business. And so we began to collaborate on more and more items. And so from there, we could get more things done. What is important to you, what matters to you, is a very, very important first step with your clients to opening up those deeper conversations, those deeper relationships where you can do a lot more and be a lot more valuable and make a lot more money.
Yes. And that is the core of this performance-based organization. Your performance needs to be measured up against something so that you can hold yourself accountable to that thing. And then your internal teams can feel valued because they're contributing to a larger thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep saying thing. When you think of the thing, like, I want the counters in my house to be clean. I have told my family that this is something that's valuable to me. If they don't do it, then I will do it. And so when they clean the counters, they feel valued because dad notices. Oh my gosh, it looks so nice in here. Instead, like, they could have like completely cleaned the floors and done all this other things, and I don't notice. I don't say thank you or anything because it wasn't a big deal to me.
Yeah.
So what is it that your client cares about? If it's that the keyboards are clean, okay. If it's that tickets are responded to in under an hour, okay. Put these things down. But more importantly, what are they trying to do with their business every year that you can help them with?
Yep.
And then we say, hey, look, we helped you get to that 20% sales increase by doing these things. They're like, oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
They may not notice the 10,000 other things you did, but your perceived value is way up and is a much better use of your time than spending a QBR or some session with your client trying to justify your existence.
Yep.
And
back to the pricing
or lower usage or whatever it is, they don't care. But if you get something they care about, you spend 5 minutes talking about that, that's loyalty right there.
Yeah. And I like to the loyalty aspect, if you're helping them be successful, the exact price on your invoices becomes less and less important.
Yep.
And when your competitors come in going, hey, I can give you a 10% savings on your IT expenses or whatever, your customers are hearing that and going, I don't really care. 10% of what I spend with them versus what I get out of them. I don't care about the 10%. right? So not only are you, protecting yourself from competitors, then you're building a little bit more comfortable margin with those clients as well. So it really is a win. And I don't want to seem greedy in that, is like, more money for your MSP. It works out where you get that way, but your client gets more money. Yep. They're more successful, whatever it is they're trying to do. So it truly is that win-win situation that is going to be sustainable long-term.
Yep. So you are able to get your perceived value goes up, and therefore your revenue is going to go up, and the stickiness with your clients is going to go up. So churn's going to go down. This is a great topic. We should cover this again. Maybe we should do a podcast on it. I don't know. Yeah. We'll figure it out. But thank you for everyone for coming in. And we're almost to the end of February. So we'll see you all next week.
See you.